Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Marketing and Mindset here on Clubhouse. I am so excited that you guys are here. I'm Vanessa Cooper. I'm a Pinterest marketing expert and content creator, and I'm here every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern with my Clubhouse bestie, Connie. And we're always have guest speakers here sharing new topics on marketing or mindset to help your business grow. So I'm very, very excited to get started today. Let me go ahead and make our moderators. Connie, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself to the room, let them know who you are, what you do, and then prompt our guest speaker, Jen, to introduce herself. I am Vanessa, and I am done talking.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Connie. I go by Ladak. I'm a Christian mindset stress coach, and you might think, what is that? I help people manage stress. And if you've been in a room with me before, you'll know that I say that stress is an emotional response to a situation. And because we are emotional beings, we respond with our emotions all the time. And that can be causing us stress. So I help a lot of clients work their way through their stress management. Today's special guest is Jen. Jen, go ahead and unmute your mic and introduce yourself. I'm done speaking.
Good morning, Vanessa and Connie. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. My name is Jen, and I help coaches, consultants, and authors grow their business behind the microphone using a variety of paid public speaking techniques and crafting beautiful presentations that encourage your audience to take the next step with you. I'm done talking.
I love it. Love it. I am so excited, Jen, that you're here today. This is a topic we have not talked about in the room at all. So I am wildly excited to learn about getting paid to speak. So, I love to talk. I think if I didn't, I wouldn't do this every week. But talking is something I love to do. And so, getting paid to speak is something I don't really think about. So I have a ton of questions for you, but I'm going to pace myself. And I want you to just get started letting us know what you mean by getting paid to speak. I want you to give us the details. Like, are you talking about starting a podcast and advertising on there eventually? Are you talking about speaking in front of a live audience in person? Or are you talking about doing live on social medias and talking in front of a live audience? What exactly do you mean by public speaking and getting paid to speak? Is it just online? Is it in person? Is it both? Give me all the nitty-gritty details about that. And then I've got more questions for you. And I just want to remind the audience, in this room, we don't just sit up here and talk. If you have questions, you're welcome to raise your hand and ask a question on the topic. And also, if you're shy about asking questions, you're welcome to hop into the chat and ask any questions that you might have for Jen on getting paid to speak in the chat. As we go along, you're welcome to do that. So go ahead, Jen, and answer that first question of what is getting paid to speak and this public speaking you're talking about. I'm done talking.
Thank you for asking. I don't think I've ever had this question before, and I think it's important to get back to the basics when it comes to being paid to speak. And you brought up a few opportunities that I would not consider public speaking. So you mentioned, using social media, advertising via podcasts and things like that. Those are all great things, but those are more along the lines of content creation and becoming an influencer. So while there are certainly some parallels between becoming an influencer and becoming a public speaker, what I mean by paid public speaking is a stage and a microphone. Now, sometimes that can be a virtual stage and microphone. It could be you hosting your own events. It could be you showing up at other people's events. But the basic idea is you have a signature talk that you have crafted and delivered, and your folks love hearing more about this particular content. So it's something that you are known in your field for. And as a paid public speaker, you can either get paid a speaking fee simply to show up on the stage, whether it's virtual or live, or you could offer your program or service or book as an upsell after you're done talking. Or you could do both. That's the best of both worlds if you get paid to show up to speak and you get paid on the back end because people are so excited to take that next step with you, whatever that looks like. I'm done talking.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering that question. So this is very nitty-gritty, like motivational speaker sort of a presentation, but actually getting in front of a live audience and talking in person with a mic on stage. I love that so much. This is something that would be brand spanking new to me. And that's why I wanted to clarify what we're talking about getting paid to speak, because of all those other things that somebody might relate with getting paid to speak. You know what I mean? So thank you so much for answering that question. Before I go ahead and bombard you with some more questions, let us know how you got into this. Like how did you get into getting paid to speak and public speaking and teaching public speaking to your business? If you could share a little bit about your background as to what like sparked this interest. I'm really curious to know, as you're the first person I know who, this is what they do. So I'm very interested in learning some more. I'm done talking.
Yeah, I love that you asked this question because I am a Toastmasters nerd. So shout out to those in the room who are listening who are also members of Toastmasters or have been in the past. I'm not currently a member of Toastmasters, but Toastmasters inspired the seed of this dream for me to become a professional speaker. Now, if you're in Toastmasters, it's a very safe, supportive community that helps you improve your public speaking. So they help you with crafting presentations. They provide feedback and evaluation to you in every meeting. So it can be a little intimidating if you are nervous to speak, but it's a really great place to practice the muscle of speaking. Now, unfortunately, most Toastmasters groups are not dedicated towards those who want to take that into a business. So I had a mentor locally who helped me through that process. Now, she was a part of National Speakers Association, which is an association that helps people build the business of speaking. So just like any part of your business, you have to have leads that you're generating, you have to make contacts with different contacts in your industry. It's a whole nother arm of your business. So it's not necessarily that it is the only part of my business, but as a coach, many coaches can't survive on just coaching income alone. So for me, it's a second part of my profit center in my business to be a coach and a speaker at the same time. But I did create my business with the intent of becoming a professional speaker. And happy to say that the dream has come true. It took quite a few dips and valleys, but I have reached a place where, yes, I've been a professional speaker for about a decade now.
That's amazing. That is so amazing and so brave to actually, I think a lot of people struggle to, just get in front of a camera and talk, let alone in front of a live audience. And I do okay here in Clubhouse in front of a live audience, virtually, but to actually go on stage in front of people in person, I don't know how well I do with that. I'm sure I get used to it like with everything, but that's pretty awesome. I love it a lot. So if somebody wants to get coaching from you, let's say they're just getting started, they've never done public speaking before, but they're in a business where they think, you know what, I can do this. This is something I could go and teach in front of people and talk about and, grow my business this way. Do they need to have like pre-qualifications in order to be a public speaker? Like in order to land these gigs, what's the first step? Do they have to have a big following online to prove that they're worth getting on stage and talking? When it comes to like getting gigs and stuff like that, should you already have a huge following or, are there qualifications to doing this that people need to have before they can start doing public speaking? I'm done talking.
So the qualifications question is interesting because I find that even when I'm working with experienced speakers who have spoken before, have been invited to speak before, it's a mindset thing for them. They may not feel like they're confident enough or expert enough in their field to be paid for their expertise, which is really interesting. So many people are already out there doing their speaking, whether they're hosting webinars, creating coursework, that is a form of public speaking. Now, the challenge with being paid to show up as a speaker on a stage is you are not teaching people. You are not telling them how to do things. Instead, you're asking a question that Google can't answer. So it's not, go to YouTube and find how to do this. It's not go on Clubhouse and scroll for this particular hashtag or, LinkedIn audio and things like that. Instead, you're asking a question that is deep and multi-layered, and you're giving them a hint of the promise that your content will deliver if they take the next step for you. So it's a really different way of approaching public speaking. I know a lot of folks that I work with are former teachers, they're authors, so they want to get to the meat and potatoes of their content, but that's not necessarily your focus as an expert speaker. I feel like I missed part of your question, Vanessa, so I'm going to turn it back to you so you can help me understand what I missed in the question.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I was just asking if they're sorry, when I ask a question and it drives my husband crazy, I ask a question with like five other questions behind it that go off in different tangents because that's how my brain works. So I apologize. It was really just if there are any qualifications that somebody has to have, like a certain amount of following online or a certain amount of sales with their business or anything like that, where you need to have certain criteria in order to even start landing gigs as a public speaker. I'm done talking.
Okay, wonderful. Qualifications. So, what are your qualifications? You have a voice, you have content to present, you don't need a platform. I spent way too much time in the beginning of my business trying to build my social media presence. And honestly, that was a bit of a waste of time. Today, it's important for you to have some sort of speaker footage of yourself talking. So that could be raw video that you record yourself. It could be an interview you do with someone else's platform. It's important for event planners and hosts to see you and feel you and experience you in some version. So I do highly encourage some sort of video footage if you don't already have some. But you don't really need a lot of qualifications or expertise. You don't need any certifications. You don't need to prove that you've spoken on certain stages. In fact, one of my heroes who hosts Heroic Public Speaking, Michael Port, he's a Yale trained actor and performer. I've attended his events before. He wrote a book called The Referable Speaker. And in this book, he said, before you have a name for yourself, so, if you're not Mel Robbins, Tony Robbins, or any of the Robbins, and you don't have a huge platform, the event host will hire you based on your particular speech. Does your speech fit the theme that they're looking to do for their event? Do you have a specific set of expertise that speaks to that topic? And most importantly, will you support their event either through inviting folks to the event, sponsoring the event, or somehow adding other value to the event? So in a great way, speaking is accessible to everyone, regardless of what your platform looks like or how many sales you have. That stuff doesn't really matter. It's the content of your speech that really matters when it comes to being hired.
I love it. That's very interesting. Like it's so interesting. That's not the answer that I expected. I really expected that you were going to need to have more qualifications, more of a following, like already be well known pretty much everywhere in order to just like start landing gigs in public speaking. So this is very, very interesting to learn. So I wanted to ask, my next question is, I guess, like, where do you begin? Like, how do you even go about finding a place to do public speaking? I'm sure it's different based on people's businesses and what they can talk about. But like, what's the first step if this is something that you want to get into? I don't know if you're able to share that with us. I'm done talking.
Yeah, well, the first step is probably not what you expect either. I'm throwing a bunch of truth bombs out here this morning. The first step is just to have a speech that you are prepared and ready to deliver. And when you're making initial contacts with people in the industry at conferences, retreats, masterminds, what have you have to be able to have a 2 to 3 sentence speech description and 3 to 5 different audience takeaways, as well as what's called a short biography that you submit when you're applying for these different opportunities. So if you're at the point where you're like, I want to speak, but I don't know if I should talk about leadership or if I should talk about burnout prevention, those are some topics that do come up a lot these days. But if you're like, I don't know which one I should talk about, then you're definitely not ready to look actively for different speaking opportunities. You need to get clear with yourself on what you want to be known for, what that topic is, and be able to describe that topic in a compelling way to a person who might hire you to speak. I'm done talking.
I love it. That's so great. And Connie, you're welcome to interrupt if you have any questions, because I know this is like probably a new topic for you too. And certainly something that I feel you could benefit from, Connie, because you've got, Connie does Christian mindset coaching, and I know if she went on stage, I would go to that to listen to her speak because it's great. So Connie, you're welcome to interrupt if you have any questions at all, but I know sometimes you're just soaking it all in. I'm trying to think here of where I was. My next question, I'm starting to draw a blank here. Okay, so getting yourself pretty much prepared to speak is pretty much like the first step, getting your like speech ready and everything like that. But how about, like, how do you go about finding places to go speak at. Like how do people do that? How do people actually find places to go speak at? Like where, I do Pinterest marketing, so I don't even know if this is something I could do, honestly. Because with me, it's literally teaching, and it's very like I have to show you on a computer what to do. Although I could teach marketing in general, like attraction marketing, I think I could stand on a stage. But to me, in my mind, it's teaching. It's like just teaching people because that's all I know to do. So assuming that I prepared myself with like you had said, asking a question that is deep and only I'm going to be able to answer, and it's multidimensional, and I got myself prepared to go off and talk about this topic. Who would I even approach to do public speaking? What kind of events do people do public speaking at? I'm done talking.
That's an excellent question, and probably one of the biggest frustrations I have with people that I work with. So in order to understand, like, how do I find these opportunities, I really dive deep with my clients inside of my signature speech template, which is a free download that's accessible to everyone in this room, and you can find on my website. But what that helps you identify is what is your ideal speaking opportunity. So it's always good to start with what your goal is. When you look out into that audience, who is looking back at you? Is it a large audience? Is it a smaller audience? What age group or gender might be represented in your audience? Where are they at in terms of their life stage? Or is it a professional audience? Is it more of a personal or Christian mom audience for Connie? Who do you want to be in that audience? And ideally, these people would be your ideal clients, the people that you work with or that you serve. Once you understand what that is, then you can search by appropriate keywords and hashtags. So I do walk people through kind of the 101 of how to find your own speaking engagements, because I highly believe that you need to know how to do this work for yourself prior to hiring someone to do it on your behalf. And it's basically a bunch of research. And you're right, Vanessa. I mean, it's easier to do it when I can show a screen. But in general, I would say events that are looking for speakers will often put out what's called a call for speakers or a call for proposals. So that's the very 101 level of how to start looking for speaking engagements. And then depending on what your ideal speaking opportunity looks like, do you want to travel? Then you look by the city or the geography of your intended destination. And then you search by your keywords. So if your keyword happens to be, oh goodness, let's throw a random keyword out there. So for me, it's public speaking or presentation skills. That would be the keyword that I would search for, in addition to call for speakers or call for proposals. So Google's going to be your best friend. And as an interesting side note, if you're Googling for different research opportunities or speaking opportunities, I would say don't hesitate to Google yourself and see if you pull back for those keywords that you are actively trying to speak around. I'm done talking.
That is very interesting. And you said that you had a signature speak template, right? Where it kind of helps people get prepared to do this. I totally forgot to ask you before you came in here today, but is that the link you'll want me to share at the end of the room today? Because I wanted to get it prepared if it is to share with the audience.
Yes, that's the link. And it's also on my profile. So if you folks are listening, you're like, oh, who's this Jen lady? Let me check her out. It's on my profile as well. But yes, that is my free guide for you folks who are just getting started and don't know where to start.
Okay, I usually pin it at the end, but since you mentioned it and it was, answering my question, I'm going to go ahead and pin it up there. That way people can check it out if they're interested in that. Okay, so I have more questions. Goodness. Okay, so one of my next questions is, I guess when you go to do these public speaking presentations, how do you keep in touch with your audience? Like, do you have like brochures that you print out to hand them physically? Do you have your card? Is it like a QR code that they can scan to kind of follow you on your social media or sign up to your email list? How is it that you stay in touch with that audience? Because if I was doing public speaking, I wouldn't want to just do it and then leave. And then, I want to make sure they're able to connect with me. So what are the resources that you use to make sure that your audience stays connected with you after you're done with that event? I'm done talking.
That's probably the best question I've heard so far. And it's very strategic, right? Most folks just think, oh, I got to get past this fear of standing up on stage and speaking. They don't really think of what the end result they would like to receive is. And you're right, it's continuing the conversation or having them join your community or at least connect with you in some way. So, to be completely honest, I have done mostly virtual speaking for the past 2.5 years. And I've been very successful with that because I have a couple different companies that I contract through where I am bringing these programs to them. So I used to be a health coach, and that means that the type of way I, added value through a free resource or an opt-in, if you will, is no longer something that I use because I don't coach people on their health goals anymore. So for me, that's just a straight up get paid to show up kind of opportunity. But if I was to present my growing your business through public speaking presentation, then I would share my opt-in. So it's the signature speech template. And I keep offering that. Now, for those of the people who are in a room with me, yes, it's a great idea to have a contact form, a QR code. I use all of those things. But because it's been so long since I've done a live event, make sure that it's the easiest next step your audience can take with you. So I'm an introvert and I don't necessarily, when I invite people to connect on a phone call with me, it's not like I have hundreds of people suddenly wanting to get on the phone with me because many of my clients are also introverts. So be cognizant of what your audience might be comfortable with. For many people, it may not be a phone call, especially if you're in the trauma space or spirituality space. It might be difficult for them to push past their fear and schedule a phone call with you. So make sure it's an action step that gives them a really quick win. It ties into the content that you're presenting, and it's easy for them to do. So having a link available, having them fill out information and you follow up with them, those are all really good ways for ending your presentation with a great call to action. I'm done talking.
Excellent, excellent. And so that kind of leads me to my next question. So, in my head, I'm thinking, like physically in front of an audience, but I know that you had mentioned that you can do virtual public speaking too, but that it wasn't so much, like I said, like having a podcast or going live. So what are the online events that are considered public speaking to you? Is it speaking at like summits, or I think you had mentioned webinars? What are the different types of online events that you consider, you're doing public speaking versus like just, creating content? Can you go over some of those for us? I'm done talking.
Yeah, well, most of the events that I participated in were online summits and or masterminds and or membership groups where I had the host invite me to present to their members. So those are good online opportunities that are officially public speaking. So if they bring you in as a guest expert to add value to their audience, because maybe it's a topic they themselves don't offer or they've never explored and they just want to serve their clients better, that would be an example of an online opportunity. Now, most of the presentations that I've delivered as well were for summits that are international or events that are international, and they went virtual or hybrid because of COVID. Now we're seeing the return to live opportunities, but I will say this. If you don't identify as a keynote speaker, and keynote speakers are the ones who tend to get paid really well, 5,000, 10,000, 50,000. I mean, they get paid really well to show up, but they are usually the ones with the big name and the big platform. Those are usually the only people who get paid to speak at large conferences or annual events. And those events can book out 2 to 3 years in advance. So that's a long-term game and a long-term goal if you see yourself as a keynote speaker, on the big stage, either opening an event or closing an event. Whereas some of the smaller opportunities, like going into a company and delivering a presentation for a sales group or a team of leaders, those opportunities can be more lucrative, but are not necessarily ones you'll find on, call for speakers types of research. You would have to go deeper and find those contacts, and that could take some time to do all of that. Did that answer your question, Vanessa?
Yes, absolutely. You did answer it. I was just wondering, and you did answer those questions. Now, my next question is, how much how much can you make? So it's kind of like, how I ask a question and it's got like five other questions with it. So I want to know, one, how much money can you make, public speaking just when you're just starting off, and what oh gosh, how do I ask this? I guess, what happens as you continue public speaking? At what point do you start getting more? Like, what changes? Is it if you have a good feedback about your public speaking that eventually you can start charging more? Or is it that you have more experience public speaking where you can eventually start charging more? How does the income grow with your public speaking? Is that when you start to get a following and your online presence starts growing more? What would cause you to start getting paid more and more in public speaking? And how much can people make that don't have a huge following and have never done it before just to start? I'm done talking.
I think maybe a good way to approach this question is, how much do you want to make? Or how much do you need to make as a speaker? So again, depending on your business model, if you offer a high ticket coaching program and you aren't paid to show up to speak, but you sell 5 people in the audience into your program, that is getting paid to speak. So if you're a person who wants to get paid, say, $500 to show up on stage and offer a book or a low ticket course, then it might be worth your while to, if they don't have the budget for $500 and they offer you $100 instead, but you are pretty confident that your content is wonderful and will attract people to your book and or your course, you might end up getting the type of money you would like. And sometimes it's not monetary value that you're receiving, especially if you're new to speaking. Some of the assets you'll be needing and consistently using as a paid speaker are having really good video footage of yourself on stage behind the microphone. If there's an opportunity for you to get that footage, and some conference hosts and events will share that footage with you as a value add for participating in their event, that is monetary. There is a value to that. You could pay a videographer thousands of dollars to follow you and record you while you're on stage. So if you don't have an assistant or someone helping you out, that is adding value. Sometimes if you're doing a workshop at a big event, they are marketing you, so you don't have to pay for that marketing. Maybe they host your presentation as a recording on their platform 6 months after the event. So those are other ways to receive value. Sometimes you can even negotiate with the speaking event host to say, hey, will I have access to the email list of the people who attended my session and or attended the conference? And that's a way for you to continue the conversation and make sales after the fact. So there are multiple ways for you to get paid to speak. If you're starting out and you're like, I definitely want to command a speaking fee, power to you. You are amazing and you deserve to be paid for your expertise. I would encourage you to think higher than you think people will pay you. So $500 to $1,000 is a good place to get started if you don't have any speaking experience, but you're pretty confident on the quality of your content and making those connections in your industry. I'm done talking.
That's amazing. That's really more than I thought it would be, especially just starting off. But and that's something I love what you said about like pretty much give yourself more credit and more value than you're going to think, because some people might like start off like, okay, I'll take $50, like to public speak or whatever. But you like starting off big, I think that's something that a lot of business owners in general, not just for public speaking, but just for their services, and the things that they do, are underselling themselves or undercharging for their services and undervaluing themselves. And that happens a lot, I think, especially when people first start off, because they kind of have that imposter syndrome. So, just I think starting big is good, and just having that, that confidence. And I don't, you tell me, Jen, if people, if you make an offer, let's say you're like, all right, I want to speak at your event for $500. Let's say you start off and pitch that to somebody that, wants you to speak for them. or, you're just pitching to them. And do they negotiate with you? Is this something that you get a lot of feedback from? If if you do want to charge to speak, do you usually get a lot of people, trying to negotiate with you or lower your price, or is that normal to happen? I know, like with what I do, not so much my Pinterest marketing, but I've had people that I offer like writing services to, and they're like, oh gosh, it's a little outside my budget. And so I kind of work with them and they're honest with me. Does that happen a lot when you're pitching a certain price for your public speaking? I'm done talking.
Ooh, this is interesting. So if someone offers you dinner and a ticket to the event in exchange for speaking, just don't do it. Unless you really want to get your feet wet and practice your speech. But yeah, so the negotiation process is interesting in terms of the speaking industry. If they perceive you to have high value and you get out the gate saying, I get paid to do this, they're more likely to honor whatever fee you state to them. Now, sometimes when you're submitting an application, you're not aware of whether they have a budget or pay their speakers. And this is something that speakers don't shout out what they're getting paid to show up on stage. But I have heard horror stories of people in the industry who have charged 500, where someone who is sharing the stage with them received 5,000 for the same type of opportunity. So I would say to that is own your value. Make sure you have the right content there. And if a negotiation is required because you're not sure whether they have a budget or not, just be clear that you typically do get paid for this. If you are looking at the event and it's something that is a win for your business, like maybe it's the perfect audience, it's the perfect location, the date works out well for you, you can make that decision to offer it as an honorarium or a showcase type opportunity, as long as it makes sense for you. But be clear that you are waiving a fee if they say, oh, we don't have this budget here, or here's what we can offer you. And it's important too, when you're looking at your speaking fee, to make sure it's clear whether travel and lodging are included in that fee, or whether that's additional expense, or if you want to be reimbursed for mileage or things like that. So I have a template that I use for contracts. It makes it very clear what my speaking fee is, what my needs are from a standpoint of technology. Like, do I need them to provide a projector for me? Do I need them to provide certain things for me? And as a general rule of thumb, please make sure you have everything you need, even if something breaks down, that you are able to deliver regardless of what shows up at the event itself. And be open to the conversation, but just be clear, like when you start that conversation, that I'm someone who gets paid to do this. And if they say, oh, sorry, we don't have that budget, then just respond back with, what else can you offer of value? And that's a valid question to ask. Like, sometimes you can work with people and sometimes they're like, nope, this is what it is. And sorry, we can't offer you more. And that doesn't mean that they won't come back later and offer you what you asked for. So just be open to the conversation, own your own value. And yes, it is okay to negotiate as long as it makes sense for you and your business and what you hope to achieve from that opportunity. I'm done talking.
That is an excellent answer. And I really love all of the different benefits behind public speaking. Like not just getting paid to be there and do the public speaking itself and offer that value, that could be lucrative on its own, but getting potential sales, like you said, if you have a book or a product that you sell, getting potential sales from your public speaking, getting followers, getting people to find you online, growing your email list, getting potential sales for down the road, long-term clients, long-term customers. Like there's really so many benefits to this that I had never even considered at all when it comes to this. So that's really good. Connie, again, if you have any questions, just feel free to interrupt, because I'm just like asking, I'm asking so many questions.
All the questions that I wanted to ask, you've had on your list, so I'm good.
Okay, awesome. Okay, and again, for those of you who just joined the room or weren't here earlier, if you have any questions about public speaking or what we've been talking about, feel free to raise your hand and ask your question. Or if you're shy about coming on stage and talking, you're welcome to go over to the chat and ask your question there. We'd be more than happy to answer it for you. My next question, then, that I wanted to ask, and this is, I'm assuming this is something that you have to teach or approach or, do a pep talk or something for your clients who are wanting to learn public speaking. What about the mindset part of it? So we've talked a lot about like the basics of it. I want to know, what do I do if I want to do public speaking? Because I've, let's say I'm in here and I've learned all of these benefits and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. I can make money doing it. I can grow my business doing it. I want to start doing this, but you don't feel comfortable doing it. Are there any mindset tips or any preparation tips that you can share with us to help people get past their fear about public speaking so that they can push through it and get on stage and start doing this? I'm done talking.
Well, if you're afraid of public speaking, which by the way is called glossophobia, I think that's a really interesting word. But if you're afraid of public speaking, you have to find ways to tackle that fear that do not feel overwhelming for you. I was a member of Toastmasters for years, and I won speech contests. I was an officer of Toastmasters. I went through multiple years of the program before I started believing that I could become a professional speaker. So I'm not saying you should join Toastmasters, but I'm saying you should practice that which scares you. And so if public speaking is one of those things that scares you, find small ways that you can practice it. That doesn't mean you have to, get on someone else's stage, because that might be a little overwhelming in the very beginning. But can you join a local supportive group? Can you ask a business colleague of yours to present to their membership group? Can you show up at a local Rotary Club or Chamber of Commerce? Can you record yourself on video on social media and start experimenting with what that looks like? Now, I think most of us are afraid because we're afraid of what people will say. And to be completely transparent, I have been trolled on social media before, and I love social, so it's not going to stop me from showing up on social. But for some people, that is a hard stop. Just understand that most people who will be listening to you are the people who want to listen to you and will continue to listen to you. And those trolls can just disappear, and they will disappear if you don't give them too much attention. So don't be afraid of what people might say or think about you. Whatever they're thinking is their thoughts, and you don't ever have to know what that is. But find opportunities to practice your craft. Are you comfortable speaking in conversations? Keep doing more conversations. Record yourself on video. You don't ever have to post a recording you do of yourself, but you can certainly look back at it. I know it's really painful to do that. I hate watching myself on camera, but that is the best way for you to create awareness around your patterns and your fears and calm those fears one small step at a time. I'm done talking.
That was excellent advice. It's such good advice, and that's one of the first steps, I think, in facing your fears is just slowly exposing yourself to your fear. Just like slowly building up to it, like you said, even just talking in front of your family, or like you said, creating a video inside of a small membership group of somebody that just those little baby steps to kind of help you get over it. And it's something we had somebody here that taught video marketing a long time ago, and that's one of the things that she said too, is just like baby steps, like just start recording yourself, recording videos of yourself. And so you're used to being behind the camera and just kind of slowly working your way up. I know there's this therapy, and it's really big for if you're really like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could do this, and it really causes you anxiety. The cool thing about exposing yourself to your fears is that when you first do it, your fear is going to feel like a 10, like you're going to be so nervous and like sick to your stomach, possibly from the anxiety. If you're anything like me, you get sick to your stomach from the anxiety. But the more you're there and the more you face it and the more you expose yourself to it, that 10 starts turning into a 9, into an 8, into a 7, until it's really, really low, And then even for me, when I first started talking in Clubhouse, I remember I used to be like, get really, really nervous. And now, oh my gosh, it's like, I don't even care, And this room's really laid back. And I intentionally like that because I don't want anybody, not even my speakers, to be nervous about coming in here and talking, because we're so laid back and we mess things up. And I've had the people mowing the lawn in the background and mess up the audio. And I know Connie's dogs are always squeaking and making noises. And I'm always just like, It's all good. This is like a calm environment. So I just love that, that was the advice that you gave, because it's solid advice for anybody facing any fear of just literally slowly exposing yourself to it. And that first step is like a really big step. But it's excellent advice. I had another question, but I think I went off on a tangent in my head. And so I totally forgot my question. Okay.
Can I
So
add one more before you ask the question, Vanessa? Can I add one more thing to that?
yes, please, because that'll give me time to remember what my next question was.
I'm here to help you too, Vanessa. Okay, cool. So what I wanted to add to that is if you are starting with speaking by doing online video or recording yourself or TikTok or Reels or whatever your format is right now, that's actually harder as a speaker than it is to be in front of a live audience because you are removed from any feedback from your audience. You literally don't know who's going to show up. And I think that's more nerve-wracking in the virtual online space is if you don't get people engaging with your content, that could bring you down, like seriously. So if that's where you're starting from and you get used to the separation of what the engagement looks like on your videos as opposed to when you actually stand in front of a real audience, you will feed off of the energy in the room. So that's one of the things I miss about live speaking is I get energized by what people are giving back to me in the room, but you don't receive those cues in a virtual environment. So kudos to you if that's where you're starting because you have less information to go off of. And that's why it's a really good place to start. I'm done talking.
Awesome.
This
I
is
love
Connie.
it.
I was
And
gonna I was
oh,
gonna
go ahead.
add to that. So I've done a couple public speaking gigs before, and what helped me was partner with somebody in the community. So I started doing public speaking maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I partnered with my local library. So my local library has programming throughout the entire year. And so I was able to get with one of the directors of the library system and say, what's the programming for the entire year? Where can I kind of fit in? At the beginning, I kind of did it pro bono, but I started getting a lot of clients that way. Way back when I was doing career coaching. And so sometimes what you need is just a champion for you. Jen, you mentioned you had a local mentor that helped you, start getting gigs and stuff like that. But think outside the box. Think of places that already have programming that you can easily say, I'm going to try it out, and you can volunteer and be on their programming for a little bit, whether it's, the city council or one of the social clubs within your neighborhood or your community. But think outside the box if you've never done it and you want to try it and see if that's something for you. Because one thing is to give yourself the idea of, yes, this is what I want to do. And another thing is to actually do it and be so nervous and nerve wracking that you're like, you know what, this is not really for me, or I'm not ready, right? And I got to keep working at it. So those are some things or some tips that I would recommend, because if you're not sure and you just want to try it out, then gain a community partner and see what you can do for them and how they can include you in some of their programming. That way you can get a little bit of a taste of what it feels like. You'll have to prepare for it. You'll have to, provide a one-page proposal or whatnot, but that'll give you a little bit of a feeling of what it's going to look like in the real world when you start getting paid to speak.
That's awesome advice, Connie. And thank you for sharing your story about that because partnerships are going to be extremely valuable to you. And a lot of the speaking partnerships I have right now are ongoing relationships. So, those folks brought me on stage, sent me some survey feedback so I understood what their audience really took from it. And that has helped me to also have other speaking opportunities. So if you're partnering with someone local who's a champion, those local opportunities are the best place to get started because sometimes you might have 5 people in the room. And if you're brand new to what you're doing, that might calm your nerves a little bit. I mean, it's still nerve wracking because you don't know what those people are expecting from you, but it's a good place to get started without having to worry about, oh, there's 500 people looking back at me and I don't know if I can do this. And it's okay to be nervous as long as you know how to calm your nerves before you show up on stage. So thank you for sharing that, Connie.
Of course.
Yeah, that was excellent advice. I love it. Oh my gosh, every time I go to talk, I literally have a brain fart. Like my brain starts to just like glitch or whatever. But you guys had said something that, oh, I was going to comment on what Connie said about partnering. Me and Connie literally did that when we first started Clubhouse. When we first started talking on Clubhouse, we partnered up to do this room together. Because, collaboration and having just like somebody there to support you can make such a huge difference. So I wanted to add that what she said about that is great. But not just that, but I was thinking one of the best places that I think would be amazing platform for you to practice public speaking, for you to start getting used to facing your fear about talking in front of an audience is right here on Clubhouse. Like Clubhouse, you can literally just start a room and people will pop in to your room based on obviously what the title is and stuff like that. But that's a great way to get started. And the amazing thing is that there people listen. They really do. People will come in and listen. I've accidentally started a room before, like on accident, and had people just pop in, and I was like scrambling around like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to start this room. But this is a great platform to slowly kind of expose yourself to talking in front of an audience. And it doesn't have to be like this where we, our room we do every week, we have a guest speaker. You can just open a casual room and just talk, and just get used to talking. And you'd be surprised this platform, how many people I have found that will relate to you and will come up and say, you know what, I'm the same way. Like you could start a room and say, I'm literally starting this room to get used to public speaking and talking in front of people to try to help face my fears. And people will join the room and be like, you know what, I've got the same problem, and talk to you and just kind of help you start getting used to it. So I just think this is another great resource to facing your fear about public speaking, if that's something that might hold you back and you're thinking like, no, this is something that I really want to do. So okay, I'm going to ask like one last question, Jen, to see and see if you can break this part down for me. Early on when we first started talking, I had mentioned teaching in front of an audience, but you said that it's not so much teaching in front of an audience when you do public speaking. You said it's asking like a deep question and then kind of breaking it down and giving them an answer that they can't necessarily just go and Google. Can you like explain that to me, like public speaking, asking a deep question for dummies, to kind of help me understand how, I do Pinterest marketing. So, I mean, you're welcome to use that as an example, but how is there a sort of outline that you would follow, like your question and kind of ways that you break it down? So let's say that I'm like, okay, I'm interested. I want to do public speaking, but the only thing I know to do is go on stage and teach a bunch of stuff, how would you do that? How would you like I don't even know where to begin to create making my content just like one deep question that people can't go online and Google. I guess I don't know if you can answer that or if you understood my question. Like, is there an outline that you follow to your speech? I'm done talking.
Yeah, and this is the work I love diving into with clients privately because there's a lot involved here, but I think I can address the surface of it in terms of Pinterest marketing. So there are several different speaking opportunities that can pay you. And I will say, I mentioned one of them was keynoting. So the keynotes are the folks who get paid mega bucks to show up. Usually they have a big following, they're opening or closing a major event. Those folks are the ones who are delivering not how-to content, but why content. Like, why should you focus on Pinterest as opposed to TikTok, which seems to be all the rage these days. So that would be kind of where you start with your signature speech, Vanessa, is why Pinterest is better than any other social media platform. And I'm sure you have, answers to that question right away. But thinking broader and grander, and for an audience that doesn't necessarily use Pinterest, giving them the deeper why behind why Pinterest is the solution for them. Now, if you wanted to dive into the how to and the nitty gritty and the details of it, because there's nothing wrong with that, then that would make you more of a workshop or seminar presenter. And there are plenty of opportunities for these folks, but these folks are the ones who are less likely to get paid a speaking fee. and more likely to upsell after they're done speaking. So maybe you have that low cost product where you can get them into a course on how to 5 ways to do X on Pinterest. If you're doing blog posts, it's a listicle type of presentation where you're saying specifically, I'm going to walk you through A, B, and C, or the 5 ways to do this. That's more of a seminar or a workshop type presentation, and those are more available. Like a single conference can have up to 100 different workshops that they offer, typically not paid, and you are marketed during that presentation, but you may or may not be able to sell anything as a result of that presentation. You might also do something like that for a mastermind group, a membership group. It's okay to go into the how-to for those groups because they're enclosed communities, and depending on the host, they may or may not pay you to show up, and they usually allow you to promote and sell your product after that. Now, the third type of speaking opportunity would be like a panel or a Q&A or a MC, Master of Ceremonies. Now, those are different types of speaking opportunities. Usually there's not any selling or promotion necessarily, but you are showing up and receiving credibility from the other people who are at that event or panel. So those are different ways. You may not have a specific topic you're addressing. That's why when you mentioned that Clubhouse is a great place to get started, putting your content out there. When you're on a panel or a Q&A or you're an MC, you don't necessarily speak to your expertise on that topic, but you're in the same room with the same people who are very interested in your topic. So it may be a good place to get started, but it's less direct in terms of how you get paid to speak. Did that answer your question, Vanessa?
It did. And I got a lot of extra gold nuggets with it. So I appreciate it. This has been refreshing. I love being able to share a new topic in our room, Jen. So I really appreciate you coming here today and sharing all of this information with us. I wanted you to go ahead here in the last few minutes. I wanted you to give us one final thought about public speaking. If there's anything that you want to say to the room about it, just a last minute thought to share with the room, and then tell us again what the signature speech template is and all the nitty gritty details of that, and where people can find you and contact you if they need your help. I'm done talking.
A final thought I would have for those who are listening, we all speak every day for our business. Let's be real. Like you're sharing content, you're producing and creating every single day. Why not use your communication skills as a public speaker? Because instead of having single conversations with people, you are speaking one to many. It can reach more of the people who are looking for the work that you do. When it comes to getting paid as a public speaker, you are worth it. No matter what that looks like for you, there are people out there who are getting paid to do the things you are not getting paid to do. So don't hesitate to own your value and charge, what you deserve for your time, because you are an expert within your topic area. In terms of connecting with me, I welcome you to connect with me here on Clubhouse. I'm kind of new here, so I don't know what I'm doing, and I appreciate you allowing me to premiere myself here. And I also have a website where you can connect with me, waitlistchronicles.com. If you're like, what's the signature speech template that's pinned up here? It is the exact steps and format I use to create a signature speech. So what is a signature speech? It could be a TED Talk. It could be your workshop title. It could be your keynote presentation. It is your thought leadership in this world. And I help walk you through with this free resource how to envision your ideal speaking opportunity. We talked a little bit about it today, but you can dive into it and journal on it yourself. And what success looks like for you. So it may not be money for you. It could be that you want to receive speaking referrals, or you want to schedule so many phone calls with people. I'm open to what success looks like for you, but I want you to be clear with yourself before you dive in and do the work. So was that helpful in terms of identifying what the template helps you with?
Yes, absolutely. I think I even asked you a question that I think this template would seriously help me with. just kind of breaking down how to create my speech. So I love it, Jen. Thank you so much for being here. Guys, if you're, even considering or thinking about public speaking, I would definitely check out her speech template, give her a follow her on here, her social media, check out her website, and definitely connect with her because she definitely knows what she's doing. I learned so much today. Connie, if you want, you can go ahead and say your goodbyes. Then I'm going to be shutting down the room here shortly. I'm done talking.
Jen, thank you so much for sharing all those golden nuggets with us. It was really a pleasure to have you share the stage with us. For those of you in the room, if you liked everything that we had to say or you want to learn a little bit more, make sure you follow us here and then follow us over on Instagram to continue the conversation. Thank you so much for having us, and thank you for hanging out with us in the room. If you need me, you can always find me here on Clubhouse every Wednesday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with my Clubhouse bestie, Vanessa. Or you can follow me on Instagram and shoot me a message. I'm there all day. Thank you.
And I'm Vanessa Cooper. I'm a Pinterest marketing expert and content creator. And I just wanted to thank you all who came and joined us today. Just a friendly reminder that we're here Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern. We try to be here every week. Some weeks we just don't make it. But you can always check out my Clubhouse profile and see if we have a room that week. And every week we try to have a new speaker with a new topic to help your business grow, whether it's on marketing advice or mindset advice, because those are two important things for business growth. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it and learned a lot, and I hope that we will see you all next week. And I am going to go ahead and shut down the room here in a few seconds. And again, Jen, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that you enjoyed it as well.
Thank you, ladies. I had a blast, and I can't wait to see all of you on the next stage.
Awesome. Alrighty. Well, I'm going to go ahead and shut down the room here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful rest of your week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.